Hi, I'm Victor Margiotta, and this is the Community Show. We are so lucky to have Dr. Richard Becker on the show, the newly elected town supervisor, and we're going to talk about naturally talk about the town of Cortlandt and what the future looks like for the town of Cortlandt. So, Richard, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure, Victor. Thank you for having me here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. So you've been on the town 12 years?
14. I was on the town board.
All right.
3.5 terms with Linda.
All right. So talk about your experience.
It's great. I've always been involved with the community since I've been here. I'd have to say that what makes Cortlandt so unique, and I mean the whole Cortlandt, is I was born and raised in the city, and you have your circle of friends, your troops, but outside of that, so few of those 20 million people,
yeah,
right? I came here, I opened a practice, got to know people, got involved, and now I'm supervisor. And that is, not a testament to me. That's this town, how welcoming it is, and the opportunities.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate. Been on the job 2 weeks now, loving it.
That's awesome. What are some of your roles as town supervisor?
Oh, it's a complicated and busy position.
Okay.
It's executive, it's legislative, not judicial. We have our own town justice for that.
Yes.
But on the legislative side, you're passing all the town rules and regulations. And in the executive side, all the decisions of running a business that's involves 200-odd employees and a $40 million budget, setting taxes and trying to keep them low, and spending a lot of time looking for grant money.
Yeah.
Best way to do it is using other people's money. So, federal, state, county money, and
yes.
Really, and constituent services, which is really important.
Yeah.
Helping people, they'll call up, I don't know how to do this, and they come to town hall, and you can help them, and it's great to know how to do that.
So a giant thing that's going on in the town now is the fact that Indian Point is closed, and now they're decommissioning. And talk about that.
Well, Con Ed sold to Entergy, and then for the last few years, Entergy ran it. And when the decision was made to close it, they sold to a company called Holtec, which is doing the decommissioning. And I just happened to go there on a tour last week and saw a lot of the decommissioning going on. I was actually somewhat relieved, and I'll always be cautious, and I'll trust them, but I got to verify it because it's really, their thing is, to decommission economically and completely, and mine is just be safe, no accidents.
Right.
The health, safety, and welfare of the community comes first. So, and I think they have a lot of safeguards built in. And, I met a neighbor while I was campaigning, and he happens to have, a PhD in environmental sciences. And the state gave the Hendrick Hudson School District $500,000 to monitor the environment. So what this gentleman is offering to do, he's a professor at Columbia, is to have his graduate students come up with a program of what should be monitored: air, soil, water. And then he's going to generate a report for free. These are what the graduate students need to do to complete their education. And they will present us this report that we will turn over to Joe Hochreiter, the school superintendent. And they'll use that, hopefully, for guidance as to what this company they hire to monitor should be monitoring independently. And I love it because the guy who's doing this lives in town and he has kids in the school district. Yeah. So he's a scientist who has really skin in this game. And so I think that's great. And also, we're going to use that report. There's a decommissioning commission that was set up, that's redundant, decommissioning group of local residents, professionals, state and federal employees, and Holtec, a lot of the union members and others that are all involved in monitoring how the decommissioning is to make sure that we're financially kept whole and that it's done safely. And this report will guide them as well. So yeah, I think it's going very well.
That's great. Now, what is the number one reason why they're closed?
I think it was economic on the basis of a for-profit company. Entergy decided that there are less expensive ways to generate energy now, hydroelectric, solar, and so across the country, there are 107 nuclear power plants. Almost all of them will close.
Wow.
And Holtec is decommissioning 7 simultaneously now. It's just, I think it's a shame because I thought it was a safe way.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were anti-nuclear, and I have mixed feelings about it. I'll be glad that it's not a risk for us anymore once it's done. But it was a good employer, and we lost a lot of jobs. My plans for that, by the way, is to never have and be dependent on one big company anymore. It's just, why put all your eggs in one basket, to quote an expression? I'd rather have a lot of small boutique businesses in which people not only work in this town, but they live in this town. They're part of the community. They support Little League. They participate in the local churches. They know what's going on. And they tailor their business to the needs and desires of the community. And we have hired an economic consultant, and we've come up with a motto, where life works. And so far we've been very successful at recruiting new companies. At the Cortlandt Town Center, there's a new company called Doghouse, H-A-U-S, which is a specialty meat restaurant type of place, but they also have wonderful bars and all sorts of craft beers and IPAs, and around the corner a new Haagen-Dazs. So we're trying to recruit nice businesses to this area that will be part of it. And these guys live here, and they've had experience running a business. And I think people will be very pleased to see how we improve the town. Financially, we'll be fine, the town.
Yep.
The big hit was to the school district. They're never going to be able to make up all that revenue. But that's an issue for the school board, not the town board.
Yeah. And you got to admit that they did a lot for the town, and they were always supporting the school. They always, whatever was going on, they always, gave money.
They did, yeah.
And it was a great thing. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, so... but times change. You have to be resilient,
Yes.
and I'm very optimistic we're going to be fine.
Okay.
That this is going to remain a very desirable place to live.
Oh, there's no doubt. You almost feel like it was a stigma to have it here, and that it almost kept the prices of the houses down because people, didn't want to live in an area where there was a nuclear plant. So now, actually, the values of the houses may go up.
I think the property values are going to go up. And, in the Tri-Village area, we have so many plans for so many great things. We'll maintain the character. We're not bringing in any big businesses, as I said. But the actual Entergy Holtec property won't be developed because that's decommissioning. And it's going to take decades.
Right.
But just south of that, we have the property called the Con Ed property, where the town saved the buzz. We prevented this electrical conversion station. We have 120 acres, and that contains the quarry, which is so unique. And we have 4 companies now that want to do business there. The town will retain the land. That's very important to me. We will lease it to them, and then we'll get a portion of their revenue back. And that revenue will pay off the loan. But it will be 4 businesses that I think will attract the type of economic development that this town wants, small boutique things. There's a plan to develop the quarry into a swimming area, and they plan to put zip lines in. I don't know if all of this will come to fruition, but kids can hang on safely and slide into the water off the cliffs that you privately admitted that you tried as a child, as a young adult.
Couldn't help it.
And we also have a cidery called Merchant's Daughter, where they'll be serving adult beverages, and another company called Cortlandt Pitch, which is indoor soccer. And as part of their deal, they're going to provide the town with outdoor soccer fields as well. And that will be a multi-purpose field that will really enhance the community. And we hope to put art galleries in there to develop the beach area. So there's really, over a period of time, a wonderful family-oriented outdoor activities centered around Verplank.
Yeah, that's the only question I have. The spent fuel rods. Now, that's part of the whole decommissioning thing. I know they're afraid to ship them around. What's going to happen with that?
They will be here for a long time.
Yeah,
and that was part of the tour that I referenced earlier. They take these rods out, and then they put them in water to cool, and then they transfer them to these casks.
Yes.
And the casks are immense. And they they're lined by steel, then concrete, and then that's another steel shell.
Yep.
And they're actually just put on a concrete pad and they
Yeah.
sit there. The company says they guarantee them for like 100 years,
Yeah.
but they'll be monitored closely. And the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, will monitor them. The original plan was to send all this stuff to Yucca Mountain out west, but that never came.
Yeah.
Holtec is trying to get approval for their own storage facility elsewhere. I think, honestly, it'll be there for our lifetimes.
I think so. And like you said,
But it will be safe.
They're contained so well that, it's a matter of shelf life. It's not shelf life, but,
They're pretty well safe. They're high up on an elevation, so the river will never flood it.
No.
They don't require energy to drive them or protect them. So, like a Fukushima thing, where once in a lifetime tsunami would
Yeah.
not affect this because they're high up and they don't require energy to keep them cool or anything. So, I think they'll be fine.
I think so too. I mean, as a kid, I always appreciated the fact that, nuclear energy, it's clean, it doesn't pollute the environment, and we do have the technology, like you just said, to contain it, so.
Yeah, I think their process is pretty safe and secure. And we went. This tour that I took had a lot of citizens, private citizens, who came, and I think they were impressed. A lot of there were a few moms there because of the proximity to BV. They wanted to make sure that their kids would be safe at BV. I think they were reassured.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you went to medical school, and I very into health and nutrition and exercise, and talk about what you learned in medical school about as far as being able to take care of yourself. What are the most important things?
Well, I think being proactive is very important. So going to the doctor, having a physical, reporting symptoms early, and not waiting to just see if they'll go away or ignoring them. And I think a good balanced lifestyle. There are some people who go to the extremes with their diet. And I was one of them for a while. I did this no carb stuff for several years, but I'm not sure how wise that is. I think everything you learned in kindergarten is right. Balanced meal, but I'd have to say that I think adequate sleep and adequate exercise are the key. I think over my career I'd say that exercise is probably the most beneficial thing. Not only to live longer, but for a better quality of life. You're less. If those people who exercise will tell you they do it because they feel lousy when they don't, not because of longevity. If you were trying to do it for longevity, you'd do it for a month and quit.
Right.
But those people who really get into it just say, I feel terrible when I don't exercise, I feel better than I do. It energizes you, you sleep better, you keep your weight down, your blood pressure down, and you just get this sense of well-being from it. So I think that's probably the biggest key.
Yeah. Well, I was very fortunate. I was in a sport every season in high school, and we had to get a physical every year. Actually, every sport I had to get a physical. So, right after high school, every single year now, I've gone and got a physical. I mean,
That's good.
People, I think, are afraid to hear something.
Most things, most of these things, if you have high cholesterol, could be brought down really simply.
Yeah.
High blood pressure could be managed. not smoking and doing the harmful things.
Well, that's the other thing. They don't want to hear. Don't smoke. Don't drink. Exercise.
And cigarette smoking probably alone is the biggest risk factor.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of a don't. Drinking everything in moderation is fine.
Yes,
Especially if it's part of a healthy diet and you're exercising.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate of taking care of yourself. So take care of yourself. So there's so many programs. I have the book here, and I remember Linda Puglisi saying that the only thing that kills a program is non-participation. So talk about some of the programs, and so we can get people involved.
Well, the rec brochure goes out, and the winter one is out now. In a couple of months, we'll have the spring-summer brochure out. And there are just so many activities, and it's not just for kids. I mean, it's chock full of kids' activities, but for adults too, classes, courses that are wonderful. And our attendance dropped because of COVID, but we'll pick right up as the pandemic winds down. We'll be right back. The Cook Pool we were talking about, the
Yes.
old Pine Lake, was redone last year, and it's beautiful. It is
beautiful. I
one
love
of the
that
finest
place.
things. But it's really a rec center. It's not just the pool. There's miniature golf there, and probably the best kept secret in town is the nature trail behind there. It's a little hard to find. We have to have better signage. But if you go around the pool, it'll take you about a half hour. It's a light walk. You will feel like you're in the middle of the Adirondacks. Yeah. It's incredible. I can't overstress how beautiful it is. And so there are tennis courts and now pickleball courts, which is the hottest things, and with miniature golf. So I mean, between swimming and miniature golf and the trail and tennis and pickleball, there's everything there. So it's wonderful.
Yeah. So many people are like, why don't you go on vacation? I said, first of all, I golf. There's about 100 golf courses in this area that I'm going to drive, 5 hours or get on a plane to go, and when everything is right here, this is the most beautiful area, I think.
I think the Hudson River is gorgeous.
Oh my
and we're one of the few areas in the state that we can use the recreational areas that are not obstructed by tracks.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, the tracks are right up on the water. Here, our tracks are inland a little bit.
Yeah.
So we have all this thing. The summer concert series we have is fabulous, and we're going to expand that. And we're really developing the area that used to be the trailer park. That's going to be very wonderful too. Good. So just a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah. And talk about the fact that you guys reserved a lot of open space and how important that was.
Yes, over 3,000 acres so far. I'm kind of, 14 years ago when I got involved on the town board, I was very anti-development, trying to preserve every last green space. But that probably was too far to one side, and I think the pendulum has swung to a more balanced point now. We need to develop our areas and redevelop Route 6, Route 9. There are a lot of areas that are just underutilized, but the residential areas, we have to keep those green. And we have to make sure we have plenty of parks and fields for the kids. I mean, that's when people come up there, their eyes open, especially in the fall. You can just see who's the tourist. They just can't stop staring, right? They just love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
So we are going to continue to preserve open space. But there are a lot of areas for, I'd love to see a hotel here. I think that will help a lot of our businesses. If you talk to the business community, they'll tell you that's the #1 need, because if they're going to attract other businesses here, they say, where can I stay?
Yeah.
You say Elmsford, across the river.
Yep. Or all the way up to Fishkill.
Up to Fishkill or Peekskill. We need our own hotel. But not in a residential area. I don't want that to happen. But maybe something along the Ansel Circle or north of that, but still part of town.
Yeah, because this one here in Peekskill is doing excellent.
It's doing excellent. It basically serves the Indian Point population in Peekskill, but we need our own. There's no catering hall now in town, now that Colonial Terrace is closed. So we need that for people to have weddings and other events, and for businesses to come in and have conferences.
It's an excellent idea.
Yeah,
There's
so
no
there
doubt.
are people who are approaching us about that.
Okay, good.
So we won't direct them to Montrose because we don't want to change the character there, or Verplank. But along Route 9, that could be perfect. In certain areas of 202 that are just still undeveloped or can be redeveloped, that would be fine.
Awesome. You ran for office. The politics, there's no doubt there's mudslinging.
Oh, boy.
Why would you want to do that?
It's funny, I never in my life would have assumed ever that I would be doing this.
Right.
It wasn't something planned, I wasn't one of those guys who, when I grow up, I'll be a politician. I wanted to be a doctor, but I was part of a homeowners group. That guy who was president retired. I stepped up and became president of the homeowners group, and then we started trying to preserve land. And there was the highest peak in Cortlandt was called Dickerson Mountain, and someone wanted to come in and destroy it. Yeah. So I started fighting this Dickerson Mountain Preservation Association, and we fought it. It was like a 10-year battle, eventually that guy went bankrupt and the town purchased it, and it's now preserved in perpetuity. Wow. And it's 120 acres of 2 beautiful lakes and wetlands that are forever protected. It's really gorgeous. But from there, after fighting it, I was at a planning board meeting. The town attorney said, you know, you spoke so well, why don't you come to our planning board and zoning board? So I went to a couple of their meetings and ended up being appointed to the zoning board, where I served for 3 or 4 years. And then Linda said, we have an opening on our town board, why don't you run for town board? So I did that for 14 years. But all the time I was practicing medicine. And then 2 years ago, Linda came to me and said, you know, I'm going to be stepping down. This is it. That's 30 years. I'd love you to run for supervisor. And I thought, oh, okay, that's a good time in my life to make a change.
Yeah.
So I did.
Well, we have to say thank you to Linda for her service. Unbelievable.
Remarkable lady.
Yeah.
Remarkable. You know, when I walk around Town Hall, it used to be a school. And she had the vision to envision that as a centralized place for, you know, the town activities. And it's a great center right now.
Yeah.
And she also had a knack of recruiting and hiring great staff. Every single person there is staying. 1 or 2 people will retire the next year and we'll replace them. That's the natural order.
Yeah.
But there's no one who isn't doing a fine job that I feel I have to make a change.
Yeah.
So it's really blessed to be able to walk into that situation.
It was a big decision to get rid of the police force at Town of Cortlandt. Do you stand by that idea?
Oh, tremendous. People don't realize it. You know, first of all, it saves millions of dollars, millions, which is a lot of money for each individual taxpayers. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars are saved. But more importantly, we are safer. And the reason for that is we have a contract with the county, and when the county provides you with police, if one of them's on vacation, they bring in someone else. They have 300 sworn officers in the county, so they can shift here and there, so that we're always fully staffed. Second of all, if there's a big crime, a small police force can't do anything really sophisticated. They have the police dogs, they have the police helicopters, they have their forensics, they have their detectives. They all come in and assist. And one of the things I'm very proud of that came out, one of the council members, Jim Creighton, chaired a police community task force last year. And we had a series of probably 20 meetings with probably 20 people from the community. Some were police officers, most were lay people. And we worked on improving the relationship between the police force and the community. And what came out of this was the need for police, community policing. It's called community police officer. And so we worked with the county, and starting this month, in January, we have an extra police officer all the time whose job is community policing. Every high school student will know who they are, and they will know who every high school student is. They're going to spend a lot of time making sure people aren't speeding and just touring. They're going to be very present now. And in fact, I met with Sergeant Dress, who's the head of the local county police here. And we're going to put Cortlandt Police labeled right on the cars. So it's not going to just be some unknown county. Those are our police officers. It's this county. I bet a year from now you will know all the police officers. You'll know their name. They'll be stopping in here for sure for food. That I can tell you. I know police officers. They will know you, and you will know them.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Victor, what's going on?
Right.
What have you heard?"
Believe me, I love nosy neighbors. I don't mind that my neighbors know what's going on in my house. I love the fact that he's watching my property, I'm watching his property. You know, that's what makes a community, you know, that people, it's horrible what's going on with this heroin crisis. And, you know, I've lost so many friends, you know, actually my friends' kids that passed.
Terrible.
It's unbelievable. I mean, why don't they shut the country down for this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is a big problem, and it started with, you know, people talk about it's not marijuana, the gateway drug. It's they had an injury and they started on painkillers, or they found their parents' painkillers, and so they started taking those, and those are so expensive and hard to get, so they go to heroin, which is available everywhere. It's unbelievable. I mean, I think that this is a crisis, and it's more of a health crisis than it is a criminal process. It's criminal of getting it across the borders.
Yes.
It's criminal to sell it.
Yep.
But the addicted person,
Right.
that's a sick individual that needs help
I know.
and compassion.
And but it's something needs to be done. And
I agree
like
with
you
you.
said, it's more of a personal thing, and it's something that just happens. You know what I mean? It's. But I do want. I don't like to just keep sweeping it under the table either.
No,
I like it's
no,
something
I'm
that needs
glad
to
you
be
brought it
talked
up, and you know, it's hard for a town to handle this, but you know, we are very good and capable of helping people and assisting them and giving them the connections to seek care. And we have the DARE program where people go into the schools and they tell the kids about the dangers of drugs and, you know, not to listen to strangers and not to, you know, to be brave enough to say to your friends, no, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
Why? I don't want to take that.
Right.
You know, a lot of kids are like, I want to be part of the group, so
No,
I'll
I
try
know.
it.
Yeah.
You just, no, I don't do drugs. That's a braver, and people will respect you for that.
For sure. So the last question I have, we just had another minute or so. What are some opportunities for people to volunteer?
Oh, the town of Cortland loves that. That is, you know, it is a community business. We have openings on a lot of committees. Our Parks and Recreation, we call it PRC, Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, open space committees. We have our youth programs through the youth center, senior groups, veterans groups. There's so many places to get involved. And if you have a particular area and you call the town, 734-1002, we'll connect you with the right. Just say what you're interested in, and we'll be glad to have you join us and be a part of the community.
Yeah, it's. I mean, volunteering is you meet people. You know, it gives you a sense of belonging. You know, it's so many great things. I know for me, I volunteered at the church, and I know 100 people because of that. You know,
That's
what I mean?
correct.
And it's.
That's correct, and you know, and there's an intersection between the church and the town, and you know, we assist all these different groups, and we participate and celebrate at events. Going to have the big 100th coming up now, right?
That's
so
right.
that we want to help them, and we'll help advertise it and get the word out.
Yeah.
It's a big event.
Yeah.
You know, we got to make it special.
For sure.
But there are plenty of volunteering opportunities. People to help the elderly, to work with kids, to help with dogs that need homes and pets. And so we can guide you easily.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on. Oh,
Victor,
it's awesome.
pleasure. Thank you for doing this show. It's great.
Yeah, I figured it would be a great opportunity for you to talk about moving forward and the town. I love this area. I think it's I've been all over the country, and for me it's the best.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree with you.
know.
So why go away? It's right here in your
I know,
backyard.
everything's right here. Where am I?
Yeah. Sometimes if you drive around, you just can't believe how beautiful
Oh,
it
it
is.
is. It is the
You know?
best.
And how about the new Concedo Center that opened up here? A few more places like that? Wow.
Yeah, I know, exactly. All right.
Victor, thank you.
Thanks. I'm Victor Margiotta. This is the Community Show. Thank you for watching, and please get involved.